Give me a minute. Okay, so I just want to introduce you to our speaker today. I have to tell you, Hava, when I read your bio, it was very emotional. What you've been through and what you've done with it and how you wanted to share this so that others would be able to experience from what you've experienced, that it is almost teaching us how to be more compassionate people. So Ahava Rivka Aaron Price, niece Berka, a Detroit native who calls New York home, was married to world-renowned mathematician Dr. Leon Eliezer Aaron Press, Zichron Livracha, and is a mother and grandmother. She taught English and Judaic studies on the college level for many years, but more recently has chosen to concentrate on her writing. She has gained an active following for her many first-person essays that have appeared in a variety of Jewish publications. Indeed, the responses to her articles on facing life's challenges prompted her to author the book, On My Own, But Not Alone, which was published in 2019 by Art Scroll Masora Publications. Her personal experiences in navigating life on one's own and recognizing that so many other women in comparable circumstances shared similar concerns gave her the impetus to seek out professional, rabbinical, and legal advisors to share their wisdom while aiming ultimately to make society at large aware and sensitive to the needs and challenges of women on their own. Her experiences in the journey of her son, Saadia, Alav Shalom, who had Down syndrome, was the topic of numerous articles over the years, which appeared frequently in Mishpacha magazine and other venues. They gave validation and encouragement to families with individuals with special needs, as well as creating greater respect and awareness of the challenges and triumph facing these families. At Saadia's untimely passing due to COVID-19, she chose to memorialize his life through filling a pressing need, providing a book that would serve as both a resource and inspiration to parents, relatives, and professionals dealing with children and adults who have special needs. The book, More Than Special, is for anyone who believes that every single Jew, every single person is special and should be treated with understanding, compassion, acceptance, and respect. I feel very, very privileged to introduce Ahava. Ahava, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much. Since I became part of your extended family, I heard each speaker, and I have to repeat the same thing because sometimes something's a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. It is an honor to be part of this amazing group of speakers, and I am humbled and to be part of so many women who are seeking to make themselves richer and deeper. And even though we don't have a physical proximity of a gathering, there is something that Zoom excitement of knowing that we're gathering together across time zones, across oceans. And I thank you for having me. When Yehudas asked me, actually barely a week or two ago, if I would speak, I said, well, what topic would you want to hear? And she said, well, wisely or intuitively, choose a subject that's close to your heart. And well, that was a sort of a no-brainer. At the time, I was just, and this past week, just closing my final text on a book about, and more importantly, closer to my heart, the closest possible, is the story of my son, Sadia, Olav Shalom. And when I thought about it for a while, I said, special needs is a very niche topic, and she assured me no, that you would be interested in hearing about this journey. And upon some introspection, I decided, this is this is a subject, the story of Saj's journey, our journey as a family. It is appropriate for Elul and a period of Cheshbon and Nefesh. I'm going to use a resource, a quote, which varies differently from many of the amazing resources, Talmudic, rabbinical. I think the subtitle for this talk could be Living with Plan B, because who among us is not living with Plan B, if not totally, but in areas of our lives, whether it's career or family or marital status or finances. And one of my favorite corollaries to the idea of living with Plan B is a quote from a book series called The Magic School Bus. And The Magic School Bus was a series written for Scholastic Magazine and then later produced by Public Broadcasting System, in which an amazing teacher by the name of Mrs. Frizzle takes her class into the wonders of nature and of Hashem's world. And invariably there's some sort of crisis and they find themselves stuck in a beehive or at the bottom, or it's in the Amazon and a rainforest. And one of the little discombobulated little students will say, does anyone have a good Plan B? And your equally serious young man with dark green glasses will say, it was a good Plan B. It would have been Plan A. And in fact, is that not perhaps what we are talking about? When Sadia was born, and I have shared this over the years in my writing, and I've done it to my two psychologists started to validate. I was not happy. All the platitudes that are thrown at families or parents who find themselves in this new port. It is unexpected destination. I'm told, oh, Hashem must love you very much to have given you this challenge, and he never gives you more than you can deal with. And I could really have thought of many other ways that Hashem could have shown me his love. And I certainly consider myself totally incapable of dealing with this type of situation. I personally only had brilliant, beautiful, high-achieving children, and I certainly had no interest, nor do I consider myself capable of navigating a child with special needs. And I think there's a journey, and before you turn off your screens, because who wants to listen to someone's tale of woe for the next 20 minutes. But, when he was born, I was at NYU Hospital, and they have big glass windows, and it rained for 4 days. Yes, this we stayed for 4 days, not 48 hours. And I said, oh, even the heavens are crying for me. And fast forward 35 years and 11 months later, the spring day, and the skies were, I said, oh, they're sharing my tears again. But this time it was for the loss of a gift of a beautiful neshama that had brought personally my own, fulfilled my heart, his family, and had left a mark on the world, who had, though he lived only half of what would be considered a lifetime, and certainly with by any objective criteria, disabilities, both cognitive and physical, and yet he had changed Hashem's world. And then I said, yes, this is a lesson that we can all learn from. And of course, it's what motivated my writing the story over the years. And now, of course, after his loss. I have to say that I have a line that I use that even in Soros, you need mazel. Had Saad been born even less than a decade earlier, chances are he would have been certainly word advised, relegated to being abandoned, hidden away either in our own home or in someone else's institution, but never to be brought into a family circle. But I'd like to say that we were in the right place at the right time. And just a few years before Saj's birth, in 1972, there was a cataclysmic watershed event in the world of special needs. And to those who are in that world, all you have to say is Willowbrook. Willowbrook was a rather, from the outside, beautiful estate in Staten Island, which was actually, in fact, a state-run institution for individuals, children, and adults with both physical and mental disabilities. I believe it was supposedly supposed to be for 4,000 individuals, and at the time of this particular expose, there were 6,000 residents. An investigative reporter by the name of Geralda Rivera got into Willowbrook. The pictures, I can't even sully our airtime, our airways with. Anyone who's ever seen the pictures of the residents were treated farm animals, truly, without exaggeration, were given better treatment. Caught in this, and to use the word embarrassing as a trivial term, the government did not know what to do with itself. State, and it was it was indeed a national travesty. And of course, Willowbrook, the concept of a large institution was discouraged, and the government opened up the spigots of funding to encourage parents to provide respite and physical therapy and therapies at home and educational opportunities, and if not need be, to encourage small residences for children who could not be kept at home. And it was a time when the winds were changing, and even in the world of medicine, there was very little effort on the part of families or the world, or was it considered even necessary to deal with many of the medical issues that come along with special needs. Down children often have heart, respiratory. So the quality of life, as well as the length of life, most Down's children, certainly until antibiotics, did not live past early childhood. And in terms of intellectual and educational concepts, even for quote unquote normal children, the idea of early stimulation was just burgeoning. And people realized that the potential for much greater growth and much greater expectations was changed exponentially when there was early education. The Jewish world also became, the winds changed until this very, I guess the 1960s, 70s, Jewish families were not only, they considered it, it was considered advisable. It was actually required that the arrival of a special needs child was not even stated. It would be bad for shidduchim. It would negatively impact on the family, on families, on marriage even. And it was around the same time that few brave parents said, no, we want this child. We were given this child and we want this child. And they actually advertised in the newspaper that there are other like-minded Orthodox families, and support groups like Otsar began. A woman by the name of Blanche Kahn, who did not have a special needs child, was asked to tutor some special needs children. So in her kitchen on the Lower East Side were the roots of what became HASC, Hebrew Academy for Special Children, which burgeoned into humongous besides educational, umbrella organization, employment, vocational. And I was told by Ms. Borakan, that she and her husband Shul took their wedding money, and they bought a little piece of land in upstate New York so that parents could have who had their children at home could get a little period of respite, and to provide special needs children with the wonders of summer. And I think A.B. Rottenberg wrote a song called "A Little Piece of Heaven." And if anyone has ever been in Camp Hask, that's the perfect description. So we personally, we took Saja within a few months after his birth to a very prestigious medical institution, actually in Westchester, where whatever you do to judge the potential of a 6-month-old, the IQ, were advised that he would never have any capability of self-care, and that probably the wisest move would be to institutionalize him at this point. I often want to say that I want to send them, maybe what would have been his graduation diploma from a special program at Yeshiva University. So on a personal level, I began to realize, and I can say from the get-go, Saja's siblings adored him. I used to say his brothers used him first as a football, and then they taught him how to play football. He became one of the guys in the neighborhood, except for a tendency to go off on his tricycle, which required the NYPD more than once. He exuded positivity, and the child that I thought would bring tension into our family was in fact the ultimate positive, happy. He could not tolerate tension or anger, and he would he senses, your brother, sister, you love each other. As the years went on, he became more aware, and around that Tu B'Shvat, when mothers begin to talk about Pesach with perhaps not total positive, he would say, well, reality also is not one of, he didn't feel it was really totally necessary. He would say, Mom, don't worry, I'll get married. My wife will make Pesach, he'll come to us. Or he'd tell me, my sister needs a new car. I'm gonna get her a new car. Even if he couldn't cure your problem, that someone would care enough to try to work out what would be the best way to make you happy. Well, how could you not love a child like that? And as the years progressed, opportunities for him to grow. It's an interesting time. It was also a time when the Board of Education everybody was into roots, and we were told that, and they felt that it was the responsibility of the Board of Ed to provide for people in their language of origin, and they were teaching French to people from the West Indies, and a group of Satmar Hasidim said, okay, our children speak Yiddish. And at that time, at that early stage, Saja was, my husband used to say, nonverbal in 3 languages. Saja was accepted into a program called Bilingual Yiddish, which was in Williamsburg, a wing of a public school system with all the therapies and OT and PT, but within the context of Jewish culture. There was kosher food. And until this time, Saja had been going to a secular program, because there were very few, there were no Jewish early intervention programs. And his siblings were beyond ecstatic when, instead of bringing home a pumpkin, he brought home a Sukkot decoration. Just a side that, which now seems almost funny. We were reported to Children's Services by this particular agency because we did not have Saja take part in the Halloween or Xmas party, and they felt that it was abusive. And now with this amazing program, Saja, well, December, instead of a man with a white beard and a red suit, it was in fact a man with a beard with a big mem. And all of the siblings insisted on joining, going to Saja school to join in the Uncle Moishi concert. So Saja was given opportunities which certainly half a century before, even 20 years, would never have happened. Organizations like the OU realized that inclusion was important. And Yaha was born, which has Shabbatonian with mainstream schools, trips, birthright. Lubavitch started a friendship circle. Our own shul, our wonderful Rav, and made Saja a part of an important part. As a matter of fact, he left Israel on Sukkot because he led Mipkel, and in order for the Hakafas in our shul to be properly run, his presence was absolutely necessary. Saja also became a pioneer in a program called Darkenu. Some Yachad staff who made Aliyah said, why shouldn't special needs young people have the opportunity for a gap year in Israel? And Saja was in Shiva, Har Etzion, and their own wing, their own rabbeim, but so much a part of the Shiva. He had me sneak into the base of Medrash when I came to Israel, show me that there was a place that said Makom Saja, just surrounded by all the other young men. They're part of the Shabbatonim, the Kumzitz. And I was just to say that Saja, well, he sort of had a direct line to Hashem, and if he wanted something, Hashem should have heard it. And when you would ask him, so what are you going to do after Darkenu? He would say, well, I'm going to YU to get my smicha, because that's what chutzniks do. That's the young men who come to Israel for a year. And a few years after he came back from Israel, a dreamer, someone who was a professor, Stephen Glitzman, both at YU and worked for Makor, which was the umbrella organization that Saja was part of. There's a supportive part was, came up with the idea of a program called the Makor College Experience, where again, their own teachers, a group of special needs young men, became part of the Yeshiva University system. Again, cafeteria, they had their own dorm, but all the activities, they were part and parcel. As a matter of fact, that's where Saja was met two Associated Press reporters. And I'd like to say that Saja left his mark in the most amazing way because of his own positivity. There he seems to have been the greeter at the base of Medrash in YU, and when the Associated Press reporters came and said that he offered to take them around, and when they came back and found out that he had succumbed to COVID, they asked to celebrate his life. And in fact, Associated Press, the visual and text story of Saja appeared in June after, and it was picked up by 400 media networks and had over 430 million hits. And of course, I had to say, what is it in this story that why would someone, and the places that it was read or viewed was New Zealand, Boise, Idaho. And I think that there is something in the story of someone where the predictions were dire, who overcomes what by the most objective standards is a series of disabilities, and people, infuse people with hope that whatever their special needs are, whatever And I have to share that I think that we all have special needs. We are all, and we all have some. Oh, if Hashem had only, they gave me more time and more energy and more financial resources, then I could be what I should be. And I think that, you know, during the Shiva, my nephew, and I have to say, just by the way, that the COVID Shiva is take the worst thing that can happen to you and make it worse, because it was peak of COVID. We sat alone, Shiva siblings, alone with people just dropping food. So all of our Shiva experience was on Zoom, and my nephew said he apologized that he has to end the Zoom session because he was going to give a shir on Chesed Dibur, and he was going to use Saja. I said, you realize the irony of that. Saja's most obvious disability was speech. He had the large palate and the large tongue that is typical of Down. And ironically, that was his strength. And it wasn't that Saja was oblivious. He knew sometimes he had to speak slowly. He knew sometimes when I couldn't understand what he was saying, he would spell it. He knew that but yet, after his patira, and by the way, I have to mention that there were 900 Zoom views of his funeral, not because I write about him, but people from all over the world, from all time zones, who he had befriended, whose letters, excuse me, and his WhatsApps that talked about, not about his disability, and this is not from special needs people, but from his counselors, Rabbeim, his Rosh Yeshivas, his apartment, the girl behind the register at the drugstore. These are all people who he had extended not only friendship, but an empathy, a sense of caring. He said he was my best friend. He always knew when I needed a little a positive thought. He always knew what I needed. He understood it. You know, very funny. I have to say that he really, I don't know what his IQ was, but I always say his EQ was over the top. His emotional quotient, his empathy quotient. And in fact, he was able to impact, and through what he could do and how he did it, he changed the way so many people viewed the world of special needs. I will admit that we were blessed. In my research for my new book, More Than Special, there are so many families and parents. We received all this positive feedback, but there are parents who show so much love and so much energy, and they're not always the recipients. Whereas for Saja, everything was the best. It was the best pizza and the best dinner and the best day, and the child who I thought would be the most, drained me the most. In fact, everything I did was great. It was positivity. But we must show respect, and I am humble for the parents who I talked to and who share their stories so kindly in my upcoming book, where their energy and their love it is tested, and we have to have only the most amazing, not sympathy, but empathy with what they deal with. So now that it's Friday and we all have to get on, what can I give you? What can I leave you with besides, of course, this amazing story? And not because of shock value, but I will share with you that 10 years before this Saja's older brother, Shiva, was taken from us in an accident. And he was a brilliant Talmid Chacham, married only 2 years with a 1-year-old baby. And I have to say that, and we know that life is, we believe, Baruch Hashem, that we are not leaves blowing in the wind. We are not, our fate is not just an accident. Saja was not meant for 10:08 East 18, it got to 10:04. And Hashem knows that Akivas that you need, it only takes 4 or 5 minutes without oxygen to end a life, or to change a life, and ultimately to end it. And the there has to be, I said that during the Shiva, well, we can't ask why. And another one from nephew shared a story with me, and I'll leave it with you as well, share it with you, that his Rosh Hashiva, recognized brilliant Talmid Chacham, had suffered many, had some serious personal losses, and someone said to him, Rosh Hashiva has no questions. Rosh Hashiva doesn't have any questions for Hashem. And he said, oh yeah, I have questions. But I'm not prepared to do what I have to do to get the answers. I found that very validating. Yes, we can't know until after 120 why Hashem chose this plan. But I felt I could say why. And I also felt that it's up to me, it's up to us to find out, not on an existential level, but on our daily lives, the why of what Hashem has given us. For our wonderful son Akiva, we started a program called Lev Akiva. Tonight there's going to be a Shabbaton. There's going to be for teenagers who never, there's a neighborhood we discovered in Brooklyn that has, I call it the Boise, Idaho of Brooklyn. Many unaffiliated Jews. We started a Kiva program. There are men who come to learn every night. Women have, there's classes for women. They said tonight there's a Shabbaton. There'll be a Friday night dinner for teenagers. Several children, young people are going to yeshiva instead of public school. I had to do the why. I had to find out why Hashem would want this plan B. And as to Saja, over the years, I realized I was blessed. No credit. I have writing genes. It's a gift from my parents. That the letters that came in from people, and actually, again, after his Patira, mother called me. She represented a group of 100 mothers, 100 mothers, Down syndrome children, who over the years, the Saja's story had given them energy and faith and strength, maybe give more to their excuse me, freedom for their children to grow. I got a beautiful letter from someone named David who said, until I read about Saja, I really was very angry about my special needs brother. I wanted a regular brother like everybody else. But then I realized that yes, my brother, he knows all the Jewish songs, and he really does play well. And thank you. And so I realized that's my why. In this period, and so many of your speakers have spoken, my husband used to say this is a time of tshuva molecules, that this is a time that is ripe for change. The king is in the court, the speaker said, is in the courtyard waiting for us. It is a time when we can say, again, I'm quoting Viktor Frankl, man's search for meaning. When we cannot change the circumstances in which we find ourselves, we must change ourselves. I wish all of you a month, beautiful Shabbos, a year, a month of answering your personal why and making all plan B's. It's what Hashem would want. Plan. Have a good Shabbos, and thank you so very much for letting me be a part of the amazing group.
Wow, Hava. I